No, it's not. By George. Yes, yes. Yeah, I had the time I carried out there and left it out there. Now they gotta look for it. Yes, that's it. Oh, so weird.
Yes, sir.
You know, the thing came on and I didn't push it. It's been on for a while, at least for 3 minutes plus. Okay, let's write a minute like that then. Okay, we're live, sir. Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. My name is Leonard Brackett. I'll be your chairman for tonight, being Friday. We have a few legal case laws and constitutional matters that we'd like to transact, as well as some other matters. And I have on board with us tonight Mr. Rudy Wade, our senior panelist and chairman for the Wednesday night program. And I'll go ahead and make a short prayer, do a short prayer, after which I'll turn over to Mr. Wade to bless us with the reading. I'll just bow my head. Divine loving Father, we come before thee once again, asking that thou would have mercy upon us, that thou would bless our family members, friends, and loved ones, wherever they are. Don't know them by name and number. Please continue to bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership. Please continue to bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership as well. And also that we ask that thou would bless also the rest of humanity. Those people who are in war zones, those people who are in earthquake and tornado and volcano eruptions and all manner of pestilence, loving Father. Please have mercy upon us all, for us is much in Jesus' name. Amen.
Man,
I yield to you, Mr. Wade.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome,
It's
sir.
a pleasure to sit in your company tonight again.
Pleasure is mine too, Mr.
Uh,
Wade.
Hope that what you bring to the program tonight, being your constitutional night, hope that it will be raised by our viewers and listeners and appreciated by our viewers and listeners, those who
Amen.
support us. You know, we do this public as a public service
Amen.
and to educate our people and nation.
Amen.
And on that note, again, welcome to our Belizean Affairs show number 288. Um,
288.
288. Thank
Getting
you
close to that
for
300, Mr. Wade. We're getting
thank
close to
you
that 300, sir.
for us, as you know, uh, sitting together. You know, um, we give thanks and praise to the Almighty for
Amen.
giving us that opportunity. And again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the company. Um, I'm going to do a reading Luke, from Luke chapter 18, 1 to 10. It reads, "And he told them a parable to the effect that they ought always to pray and not lose heart.
Amen.
He said, in a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor respect man. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him and saying, 'Give me justice against my adversaries.' For a while he refused, but afterwards he said to himself, 'Though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice,
Amen.
so that she will not beat me down by her continual coming.' And the Lord said, 'Hear what the unrighteous judge says, and will not God give justice to his elect, who cries to him day and night, while he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily.
Amen.
Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?' He also told this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and treated others with contempt. With men, two men went up into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. And the Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus: 'God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all that I get.' But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner.
Amen.
I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. That's my reading from Luke chapter 18, 1 to 10.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade.
Back to you, Mr. Chairman, because
Could I
it's your show.
could I ask your indulgence to give us a reminder of all these devastating accidents that we're having in our community, sir? And
Thank you.
thank you very much, sir.
My people, as we near on the end of our Easter celebration, you know, we see, the terrible accidents again keep happening. Be mindful of the roads or highways. Do not drink and drive. Do not text and drive. And sad to see the constant killings in our country. Very sad to see. But yet, you hear otherwise that, you know, uh, the murder rates are down. It was uttered a couple days ago, right? And for the world and the public to know that, murder rates are down by this administration, right? You decide. You see the constant killing on a regular basis. But they says there's not much murder in the country anymore. The government and the system has everything under control. It's so sad. And we see the extent our teachers at again, um, protesting for what? For the same thing that they did the last time and the last time and the last time and the last time. When will they get it right? And like I say, they have the power to bring the government to its knees. And they have the power to tell the government and to hold them accountable to do the right thing. But we see otherwise. For me, it's just a show, so sad. But this the world we're living in. Um, but like I say, be very mindful, of your surrounding, and don't forget, the heat is upon us. And you see, not too long ago, a couple of days ago, there was a horrible fire in the Hattieville area where an elderly person perished in that home, right? You see the slow response of the fire department. You see the slow responses of the ambulances when you call for them, and when the fire department do come, in 2 minutes they are out of water, and it's a never ending story. And who suffers? Who suffers? It's so sad. And reminder that the brush fires are upon us. It's not the first time. We should be mindful, be mindful of your surroundings. And like I say, check on your neighbors, especially if they are the elderly, if they are up in age and cannot or disabled, and they live in a house beside you, and you haven't seen them in a few hours. check on them. You know, um, we still have the constant blackout reality. We live in it. You know, but the system says otherwise, and they are going to do better every year. The same thing keep happening, and they'll do better the next year, and the next year they will do better. And where are we at? Ground zero. So on that note, you know, be mindful on the highways. Too many accidents, too many fatalities. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Uh, okay. Hmm. Okay, just give me a second right here. I'll try and pull this up. Um, I have something here that I want to read, but I guess I'm gonna have to go to another location to pick it up. Yeah, just give me a second. I need to go to a different location to get the material that I'm supposed to be dealing with. Thought I had it there, and it's not.
Just a reminder, the country of Belize has a new commissioner of police. No, it's not the first and the last time we're gonna have a change of guards. You know, some do good and some do bad. Some uphold the law and some does not. Some do the right thing and some do not. So you decide. And like I say, we are all living it, whether good or bad. And we shouldn't be afraid to say if it's good, and we shouldn't be afraid to say if it's bad. So
Okay, I'll start with this one right here for right now. Uh, Belizean Constitution and legal processes bastardization. We have dealt with this subject uh, quite a bit substantively recently over the last recent weeks. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, for your public commentary and advisory, sir. And I hope that people take it seriously and slow down the mayhem that we're experiencing on our roads, highways, and streets, and also unnecessary fussing and fighting and stressful activity among the population. Everybody is under stress and under duress, have a lot of economic problems, social problems, medical problems, psychological problems, family problems, all kind of problems. But we need to be a bit more conscientious in regards to the well-being of the society as a whole. Therefore, we need to be a bit more responsible in how we carry ourselves, what we do and don't do. Because at the end of the day, the worse the situation gets in the country, the tougher and rougher experience we're going to endure. And we're finding out that quite a few individuals are not enduring and or surviving the process. So thanks again, Mr. Wade, for your eloquent advice, sir, and your imploration to the general public to please slow it down. Tonight being Friday, I want to deal with some constitutional matters, so I'll just, since we're running a little late already, I'll just grab the bull by the horn. And I hope that I'll take our listeners who are with us tonight and those who will be coming on later on and at other times after the program is already broadcast at their own convenience, of course, that whatever we do tonight and we present tonight may be of some public benefit that accrues to the well-being of or people and country and patrimony of Belize. I wrote an article a while back. This one says it was like 4 days ago. So, like I said, we've been dealing with them over and over and over recently. Uh, the following comments were made by Leonard Brackett regarding Belize's constitution and legal processes bastardization. I have spoken on these types of bastardization of Belize's constitution and legal processes repeatedly recently. Now it is in the open public domain and in their own words for people to hear how even our Supreme Court judges misbehave. Sit on the bench while dealing with high case and legal matters and lie to the public because we saw it in public, by the way. Of course, he may not have known that this matter was available for the public. So he dared to impugn his own self by lying on himself and others, by the way, only to then be contradicted with the evidence when it was provided. And as far as I understand, it's been submitted to the legal um, bosses, the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, and others to see what will become of this particular complaint. Because while that particular judge may have had his own personal agenda in cahoots with others, he also exposed another judge to his chicanery as a result of his misconduct. To have this other judge on open public mic colluding with him in terms of how he wanted to dispose of the case that needed to have him adjust that case as required by Section 20 of our Constitution under the powers authorized to him and demanded of him as a Supreme Court judge under Section 90 of our Constitution. It shouldn't be for me to have to get up in a public environment, a forum like this, and having to be bringing this matter to the attention of the general public in this manner. It shouldn't have had to happen in the first place, because that is not what we contendants of our High Court and the judges that are supposed to come to render us justice. I proceed further in regards to this particular item that I was reading from. And I went on to say, on the tape recording, which I made reference to just now, Judge Honduras, who's the judge that I was making reference to just now as well, one of them, and the other one that he ended up getting into a tizzy because of his misconduct. Judge Honduras was talking with Judge Navy, who had dealt with a previous case similar to the one that this judge was trying to dispose of, and was trying to collude with the other judge into figuring out how did the judge dispose of that case. And instead of him going and reading the judge's 41-page conclusions, like I did and many other people who were interested in this type of matter did, he could have spent his own time that he's been paid for to do his own research on the case, like we all did, as I said. No, he wanted to take a shortcut and as a result, expose himself to be heard by others and expose the other judge to be heard by others as well, in terms of how they were colluding and how they were asking questions back and forward and trying to figure out how he will dispose of this case that was before him, because he dared these people to come to his court to bring that matter to his attention. And he was hell bent in disposing of this matter even before giving it a proper hearing. As in regards to the first time that Ms. Spitz, the former attorney on that particular matter, when she showed up in court the first time, the first question the judge going to ask is, wasn't this matter dealt with already? And he demanded of Ms. Spitz to submit to him documentations and reasons as to why he should entertain this matter, when it is his damn job to and responsibility as a Supreme Court judge under Section 90 of the Constitution to do his job, for which he's collecting a salary. But he comes to the case predisposed to get rid of the case, and from the get-go, he's trying to find ways to upend the case instead of giving the case a proper judicial hearing. That kind of judicial temperament should be sanctioned. You cannot allow people like those to take on the vestiges of the Constitution and the powers invested in them under the Constitution, for them to be playing hanky-panky with high court decisions, constitutional matters at that. So not only was the people that took the matter to court aggrieved, I was aggrieved. And I believe there are many other Belizeans who are entitled to being aggrieved about these kind of chicaneries. That is not what our system used to be. And the first time I spoke about this matter in the context of the same specific circumstance where the judge was caught on tape, live tape, colluding on how to dispose of the case, I spoke to the matter and I said, we in Belize are not accustomed to that type of behavior by our high judges, because we go to the high court, or to any court for a matter of fact, to seek redress to what ails us, to get justice. And our former judges never used to behave, well, as far as I can tell, in that kind of dastardly way. I know they used to do other things as well, right? But that's not the point that I'm trying to drive at. I'm trying to say that we now have a current set of judges who are acting out of character and proper judicial temperament, and are making rulings, as I said before, out of 6 cases that had passed, that was ruled upon, 5 out of the 6 cases were incorrectly ruled. And now we have the evidence, the background evidence, in their own words as to why is it that those cases was ruled like that and why I was complaining. We have it now in their own words. So, I'm sorry. Well, I shouldn't even say I'm sorry. I'm so mad right now. I mean, these individuals are doing serious harm to our system of judgment and judicial system in our country. And once they start setting this kind of precedents, the system is going to deteriorate more, because a lot of people now are going to be questioning whether or not they can actually depend on legal. And sometimes when they don't get the justice that they expect, they'll want to, end up taking the law into their hands. That's not the kind of system we wanted or desire to have. And I don't think that the Prime Minister should sit on the side and allow that to happen, or the Attorney General should sit on the side and allow that to happen, or the DPP should sit on the side and allow that to happen. None of the people in our system who understand what is happening should be encouraging or just sitting back and allow what is happening to continue happening. All those individuals who are part of the problem should be dealt with. And I don't think it should be dealt with next year or a decade from now, it should be dealt with forthwith. They should not be judging any more cases on our benches, because a lot of people who had their case before them before can now cry foul, whether justifiable or not. Just let me go ahead and continue reading this stuff, please. I'm sorry about that. It says, on the tape recording, Judge Hondura was talking with Judge Neby from the previous case number 55 of 2019 AD. He was talking about her being Justice Neby in this instance, having dismissed the previous plaintiff request for a court order from Judge Neby to compel the Elections and Boundaries Department or Commission to adequately fulfill their Section 90 requirements or constitutional mandates and obligations. However, for which EBC, being then the Election and Boundaries Commission, as previously noted, requested of the judge and the original clients who submitted the case against them they requested the judge to allow them to have a consent order or a stipulated agreement, which Judge Neby subsequently declared and classified as a tumbling agreement under a 40-page decision. Judge Neby at that time had declared that because the plaintiff had entered into an agreement with the defendant, that constituted a mortal flaw in the plaintiff's case. Now, Judge Neby, being the judge the judge of record for that particular case at that time, held what is called in legal parlance or legal terms jurisdiction over that particular case. So how can she declare that under her judicious authority and the exercise of the judicial power vested in her to give justice to those who come seeking it from her court, how can she in good conscience then at that time tell these people that she, Judge Neby, allowed them to enter into a consent order which can only be gotten under her jurisdiction? It's not like the people went and make a consent order among themselves and got rid of the court or dispensed with the court. She gave them the authority to bring that consent order into effect, which for all intent and purposes, she then still held at that particular time the right and the powers for disposition of the case. And when the government did not comply with their part of the agreement, she's telling the people, tough luck. You entered into the agreement with the government for them to do their corrective efforts, and they didn't do the corrective effort. Now they are coming to her for her to sanction the government. And because she has a contract with the government, she cannot entertain getting a foul of the government, and therefore these people should just get out of her court for all intents and purposes because she didn't care to be bothered with them anymore. That's not what judicious practice are. Or why you have people sit on the high court to listen to cases and render judgment. That's the power vested in them. That's their rights. That's their responsibility. That's what they're being paid for. No judge can automatically just tell a person or a group that they don't want to hear the case because it's an inconvenience to them, and they don't want to fall foul of the government by having to rule constitutionally against the government, because the government has already, as a matter of fact, at that point when they were having this discussion, the government had already acknowledged that they had been in violation of the Constitution, and they wanted to go and correct the violation, which is why they asked for um, the consent order. The bottom line is that the judge still held jurisdiction for the case. So by her telling the people that came to her, the plaintiffs that came to her with this case, that she cannot help them because they enter into this, what she then classified as a tumbling agreement. She didn't have to classify those people's plea to her as a tumbling agreement, because there are different types of agreement. And through the judicial process, when the judge authorizes you with a consent order, you're both plaintiff and defendant under court directions and guidance in order to get or to dispense with the case. For the judge to be able to have a justifiable reason to dispense or make a ruling on the case, both sides must be satisfied and the agreement must be fulfilled. You can't have one fulfilling one part of the agreement and the other one refuse to fulfill their part. That is not an agreement. Yet you have these slick lawyers that is coming out in public every time after the case is being discussed and telling the public that the judge made the ruling, and therefore, for all intents and purpose, because the judge ruled in regards to the agreement and didn't rule in regards to the constitutional violation or corrective measures, they turn around and want to say that for all intents and purpose, that constituted then an estoppel. You cannot have an estoppel on a case without the case having been properly adjudicated. And when it is properly adjudicated and a decision is rendered in regards to the substantive matters of the case, you have a res judicata. That is to say, the matter was put to rest by judicious and judicial conclusions. Only at that time then you can have an estoppel. That is to say that then the persons that were involved in the case are blocked from suing each other any further, because then the case has been decided. But as regards to this particular case that we were talking about, the matter was not decided. The judge ruled on the secondary request that the people came to her for her to sanction and force the government to comply, force the election and boundaries to do what they were supposed to do, that they claimed that they wanted to go and do under the agreement. But the judge knew that these people that was before her were not no moneyed people. The other liars, they knew. In fact, the people, they knew that they weren't no moneyed people. And all they were trying to do is spend a little money out of their pocket to ask the government to comply with what the government had already acknowledged they were in violation of. It's a bunch of scoundrels, man. I'll just like to continue the reading here instead of ranting. Let me go forward. So the Judge Nabi at that time, had classified the agreement that these people had entered into as a tumbling agreement, and therefore provide herself a 41-page conclusion, most of it with case citation about what is a tumbling agreement and what is not a tumbling agreement, while at the same time leaving the government in place to continue bastardizing and violating the Constitution. She also said that somebody else can bring the case. But this case at the time, she declared it as having a mortal fault for which she had no corrective means, or would provide no corrective means, or could not help the client to move the case further. Um, Thereby dismissing the plaintiff's injunctive relief request, as she believed that the government would meet compliance. Now, the government had not met compliance, but she was stipulating that based on the promises that the government made to her, she was accepting the government promises and the government words uh, rather than accepting the words of the plaintiff. She's working for the government. The government pays her salary. But that salary is being paid by us, the people of Belize, through the treasury. And it is a mandate that we have in our constitution under Section 95 for the judges to use the power vested in them to give us justice. That is part of our governance system. Uh, there's one little part here I want to finish up with, and then I'll give Mr. Wade a chance to weigh in as far as his, understanding the matters to be. Now, let me just go ahead and finish reading, please. Okay. Okay, so it says, as she, Justice Navy at the time, believed that the government would beat compliance, as was represented to her, the court, by the Elections and Boundaries Commission uh, in attempting to meet compliance for Section 90, which the EBC, the Election and Boundaries, had acknowledged being in violation of or in breach of, and was still refusing to meet compliance thereto, and therefore exculpating and leaving the government to continue violating the Belize Constitution with impunity at that. Mr. Wade, I'd just like to cease and desist my rant for a second, sir, and give you a chance to verbalize whatever your concerns are in regards to these matters that I was speaking about. If you care to take a
Thank
shot.
you. Thank you. Uh,
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We constantly talk about, you know, this issue and the issue of redistricting and equal representation because that's what it boils down to. Um, and it's all about doing right by the people and nation. Um, and it's all about, you know, doing the right thing by our constitution. I don't see anything hard in doing that, but we see how the whole scenario is playing out is because of the political treachery, right? The political will and what they want to give up and what they don't want to give up and that's what they're playing with. That's initially and as I speak, that's what they're playing it with. They don't want to give up nothing um by doing right because by doing right they will give up something they need to give up. And both the two-party system do not want to do that. As a matter of fact, you had never heard anything about redistricting to a great extent by the so-called opposition, what it was then and what it is now. I'm talking about the opposition because we don't know if they're coming or going, or who is the opposition, right? Um, but that's to show you, the ill will, and it went to court, and you know, the court in 2019 tell the two party, well, come on a some agreement and work it out, and this is my ruling, and in any future date, if someone want to bring this back to court, it can, but not the same people, right? Um, that is what that's all about, and they play that out real nice. Um, they made it seems to be like they had an agreement with the party that took them to court, which they did not, and they had complied, right? Which they did not, because if they had complied with what the party wanted, the the complainants wanted,
So no need for them to complain
I
again.
wouldn't have been in this position that I'm at right now, right? I wouldn't be a part of the court proceedings right now. I wouldn't have been a part of it because they would have complied, but they didn't. But they let it show, or to some, that yeah, they complied, and sadly, we see how the election and boundaries department works in this country. I think they all should be held accountable. I think they all should be. I'm talking about all the players in the election and boundary, that they're put there to do a job. They are put there to safeguard, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is there, and they are put there to do right as time goes by, in terms of the election and boundaries obligation and duties,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not the obligation and duties of the UDP when they were in power, because they did a hell of a mess in terms of controlling the election and boundaries, right? The same thing with the PUP. And yet you hear they throw the election and boundaries department under the bus, study by this prime minister. Oh, they are the one. It's up to the election and boundaries now. We already this and only, right? But 98% of the right thinking minded people in this country knows that they control the election and boundaries, right? They are the one that tells them what to do and what not to do, right? What part of that we don't get, right? What part of that we don't get? Well, yet, like I said previously, the election and boundaries should be an independent entity.
Mm-hmm.
The prime minister shouldn't, or the PUP representative shouldn't control that. The UDP leader, Dean Barrow, and his minions and all, they shouldn't control that. But you see how they work. They put their own chairman there. They
Mm-hmm.
put their own leaders there. They put their own attorney there to bamboozle the people. And when the UDP are no more, they are kicked out. Same thing, the PUP come, they do the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
They make separation, and they part ways here, and they do that, and they set what they want and how they should carry out the affairs of the election and boundaries, right? Is that right? Is that justifiable? Is that constitutionally right?
No.
No, it's not. But these suckers keep doing the same thing over and over and over. And at the end of the day, who are they disenfranchising? The people, the voters, the electorate. They're not disenfranchised because they're doing all whatever the shenanigans that they're doing is to make them win an election.
Mm-hmm.
Is to for them, the election and boundaries officials to pad up the books. They even go to the extent of selecting who is going to work at an election day.
Mm-hmm.
Each department they go and canvas out. Oh yeah, well, Mr. Wade, no, he can't, no, because he too strict and he will make sure that what in the city happened would never happen. He makes sure that people vote the right way and rules and laws are upheld. But he not PUP, so or she not PUP. Make we gather any crowd here and put them right because they will work in our favor. Past and present government does the same crap
Mm-hmm.
because the people that they put out at the election and at election days, when election day come, the person who controls that, they all have their agenda, right? I told one Mr. Milton that was in charge of Cairo Central. I told him, I said, you know, is this from here to here 100 feet? And it's something that I keep bringing up all the time. But the law says you should be away 100 feet from that polling station. Whether it's a little booth or a big mansion, but once it's classified as a polling station, you should be 100 yards away from there. You know what he told me? He's not concerned about that, right? He's not concerned about that. No, that's the word that man used. What he's concerned is inside there in the booths. And that's what he's concerned about. But yet they dragged us in an election meeting and they point out these points every time. This is the law of the election and boundaries department in an election day. You should be. So that's why I ranted off and I went off with them this last time. And I did it several other times.
Mr. Wade, can I interject just a second? I'm not taking away your time, just a second. He is saying that he is not responsible for what's going on outside. But yet there are some of them who sit right there inside and see PUP operators, and in some instances, UDP operators coming in there, battering with the people who are trying to cast their vote, and they don't do anything about it. Why? They don't want to get into trouble because they're civil servants who are put there to guard the process to have a certain outcome.
But yet, he
Those are the
wasted
facts.
my time to come and point it. Well, UDP going here and the same shenanigans all the time. He wasted my time to come and show me the same crap over and where they are breaking the law. So if he is not concerned about the 100 yards, why in the earth he gonna call you and say, come out here and recognize the 100 yards? What kind of a people are these people? So the only good to me, I walked away. I want no part of that. I walked away. Right? Well, what I'm saying is that, but yet they are going to say that, we have free and fair and democratic election. And the
Nonsense.
law says specifically like what you said there, Leonard, who are the ones that can ask for help to carry them in and to cast their vote. One, if you are invalid, disabled, those are the 2 points. But no, they're taking in undisabled people and walking nicely and lead them out and not blind or walk them nicely and right in front of the ballot and they watch them mark and there's a reason why they do these things and who stop them,
And that's
right?
legal.
Right? It's illegal. So was I wrong to stand up in that meeting and point these things out? The constant bastardization. And then you're going to waste my time and show me repetitiously. And every time an election, they march you in and tell you the law, the rules. Every time. For time immemorial. But no one of this two-party system uphold the law on election day. You see the $300, you see the $200 right there, and that's illegal, right? Right there, you see the money passing, right? What? What a kind of a country is this? And they're going to talk about democracy, right? They're going to talk about democracy. So sad, but anyway, you know, I say, was the or is the PUP government now that is in court in compliance, right? With the redistricting, and they are not. Um,
That's what I
if
would
they
like to go
had
into.
if they
That,
had complied, we wouldn't have been where we are today. If they would have complied, that's all I'm saying. Back to you,
thank you
Mr.
very much,
Chairman,
sir.
on
I
that
would
note.
just like to cite some constitutional sections that deals precisely with those same matters that you were talking about just now. And I have here the following comments were made by Leonard Brackett regarding government of Belize unconstitutional and violative scofflaw conduct in regards to um, the 9th of April. This was written on the 9th of April, not too long ago, regarding the Belize Constitution violations of Section 90 and the Europa Schedule 1 issues or inconsistencies, etc. I call this one a teachable moment, part 22A. And I went on to say, Belize Constitution citations such as Part 1, Section 1, and Section 2, Subsection 1, as well as Part 2, Section 6, Subsection 1, and Section 16, Subsection 1 and 2, and Subsection 20, Section 20, Subsection 1 and 2, and 3, all the way through 8, as well as Part 6, Section 88, Section 89, Section 90, and Section 91, as well as Part 7, Section 95 of the Belize Constitution. I'm sure that we will not have enough time to deal with all these citations here because of the limited time that we have, but we will take our best shot at it, and hopefully at the end of our presentation, it will have worth your while to have heard the presentation, and you will be in a much better position when these jackals they come to you telling you about they need you to vote in a referendum for you to decide whether or not you want your constitution eviscerated or whether or not they should just go ahead and don't have a referendum and just modify the constitution under the present powers that is vested in them to make modifications to the constitution. The problem is that they want to make certain modifications that they're not empowered to do. They want to make the constitution modified in such a way as to get rid of the head of state, to turn the country into a republic, and to get rid of some of the Bill of Rights, as we would call them, you know, Section 3 all the way through Section 19, inclusive for review purposes, Section 20. And like I said, they're all listed here, but I cannot read them all in this presentation. I'll just read bits and pieces of it. So I'll go ahead right now and I'll take up uh, Part 1, Section 1, and Section 2, Subsection 1. And it reads as follows. Part 1, Subsection 1 relates to the state. It describes what the state of Belize is. And says, Belize shall be a sovereign, independent state of Central America in the Caribbean region. And then it goes on to say, Section 2, Subsection 1, which deals with the Constitution. It says, the Constitution is the supreme law. The Constitution is the supreme law of Belize. And if any other law, such as those that the legislators they make, which they are empowered to do, if any of those laws that they make is inconsistent with the Constitution, don't care if all 100% of them, 31 of them, get together and make it. If it's inconsistent with the Constitution, it is to be classified as being null and void. That is to say, it has no power of law behind it. It's violative of the Constitution. So you can't make an unconstitutional law and hope that it will be accepted or should be accepted as a constitutional law. If it's unconstitutional, what part of that you can't understand? Unconstitutional means it's unconstitutional. And the only way you could make an unconstitutional law to be constitutional is if you change the Constitution either under declaration of martial law, which a lot of countries are thinking about doing, or you overthrow the government by some other means, either by violence or by some, hanky-panky game being played out. But at the end of the day, you have to overthrow the present constitution in order to bring in a new constitution, because you can only have one constitution at a time. And the current constitution says, as I just read here from section, from part 1, section 1, section 2, it says, the Constitution is the supreme law of Belize, and if any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution, that other law, to the extent of its inconsistencies, is void. I'll go on to read part 2, section 6, subsection 1, relating to equal representation of the law, or equal protection of the law, so as to say that each individual has vested in him the right of equality to be protected by the law. Section 6, subsection 1 reads as follows. All persons are equal before the law and are entitled, without any discrimination, to equal protection of the law. Protection from discrimination is found under section 16 of our Constitution, subsection 1, and it reads as follows. Subject to the provisions of of subsection 4, 5, and 7 of this section, which is to say section 16, no law shall in any no law shall make any provisions that is discriminatory either of itself or in its effect. So as I said earlier, if the Congress gets together, 100% of them, and decide to make a law that is violative of the Constitution, it still remains violative of the Constitution for all intents and purposes declared by the Constitution itself. Any such law is inconsistent and therefore is null and void. So if you have a law that is made that in its effect is discriminatory, then that law is invalid. That law has no constitutional power of legality. I'll go ahead and read section 16 of the Constitution and subsection 2, and it reads as follows. Subject to the provisions of subsection 6, 7, and 8 of this section of the Constitution, which is section 16, no person shall be treated in any discriminatory manner by any person or authority. So when you have police officers, pretending to be jury, judge, and executioner all in one on the street, playing cops and robber, beating down people and shooting down people, or doing all manner of evil conduct, committing crimes under the color of law, they are not above the law, and therefore they should be treated just as how the law would treat just about any other common criminal or anyone that commits a crime. If the police officer commits a crime, he needs to be tried. And only when you have that happening, then they will take caution and follow the right approach and procedures and do right by the public, because they are sworn peace officers first and foremost. But then when you have the senior command, commissioners and others, who are they're making excuses and exculpating these jackals with their evil conduct, then that's when you have the society getting up in arms. You cannot have commissioners of police getting out in the public and talking craziness that, like for example, in this particular instance that I'm going to refer to, where the police officers were the ones who were actually acting violent towards Mr. Faber, and he complained to them of assaulting him, which according to the laws, the police officers could have been charged for assaulting him. Instead, they took him down to the station and charged him with assault. That's bogus. And then the police commissioner is going to come out and say, those two police officers should be considered as heroes. Why? Because they held their own and end up embarrassing a public officer. Now, mind you, had that been any of the government officers, all hell would have been broke loose. That person would have been fired. But no, the person fulfilled what he was ordered to do by his superior, who were being guided on the telephone by political mischief makers, who relished in the idea that by Mr. Faber having been sat on by these officers who were trailing him and who had an agenda predisposed to, that they would be considered, as far as the police commissioner is concerned, instead of being sanctioned for their malicious behavior and filing bogus paperwork, and lying when the tape didn't indicate that Mr. Faber had touched any of them, much less assaulted any of them. Otherwise, he would have been taken to the court forthwith. So the bogus charge of assault is a manufactured charge for their convenience to try and stop Mr. Faber from being able to go forward with a claim against them for their conduct and what they did to him. But you have the police high command exculpating and giving directions that nothing should come out of what they did to Mr. Faber. I would say the matter should be taken up in court, and all those who participated in the committing of crime under the color of law, whether it was just the officers them on the site and or those who exculpate them and who give the impression to the other officers who are beating, pistol whipping people on the street and all other kind of manner of misbehavior, give them the idea that it's all right so long as your command officers, agree with you. You could make any kind of claim you want, and anybody who cannot defend themselves can end up going to court, end up losing their case, end up in jail. In fact, some of them are in jail without even getting a hearing. But I'll yield back again, Mr. Wade, because I don't want to monopolize the show. We have another 20 minutes to go. I'll yield to you for your commentary, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
It's so sad to see, how, again, this two-party system has this country. Like, again, when the UDP is in power, I say it again, they set people up there to, to clear them of their wrongdoings, right?
Mhm.
All the way to the
Mhm.
courts, right? So who dare take them to court because they will not be held accountable anyway. You see how when, like you mentioned about the public, about the way the ones who swear to protect and serve us treats us, and you see when they get caught, my people, publicly with tapes, there for the public consumption, their actions, minute by minute by minute. And then you see how, from the minister to the commissioner of police, try to justify their action in
It's a
some
shame.
cases,
It's a shame.
right? Blatantly, you see the misuse of power, the things they do that they should not have done in the first place, the
Mm-hmm.
things they say that they should not say publicly in the first place. Because why? They are upholder of the law, right?
But then
They
when
should,
they file files report, police report.
all that happen, right? So you see publicly how they come to the media and they justify, well, you only hold the stick up so, but you never bring it down. Or you only point the gun, but you never squeeze the trigger. Or the bullet gone up here and it turn wrong and it come back and it do some flip flap and that never for him fault.
And hit
Right?
and the bullet hit the person in the back.
And yet these are your
Oh,
public
yeah.
figures. These are your leaders. What kind of a people are you? When publicly you're portraying falsehood, publicly you're twisting and maneuvering to guide the public as to where you want them to go and to think. And sometimes before they even get charged, the scenario is already out there by the media. Well, this is what the commissioner says, or this is what the minister says, and it wasn't like that. right?
Mr. Wade, um, on the same issue that I was talking a little earlier about with Mr. Faber, by the time Mr. Faber got to the station that night, they had a charge sheet waiting for him already without even hearing his input, without questioning him and providing his input as a part of the record.
Based on that,
Um, then not only that, but the person that put that report together had instructions to do that report by a superior officer. Okay, you have a station officer on duty, but that when you deal with a political personality, they always defer to their superiors who are supposed to at least have some legal knowledge or clearer understanding of the, the lawman's practice, and those are the individuals at the higher level in the higher command that gives those information. So in the case like Mr. Faber, that information would have been given by the High Commission, and more likely than not by the commissioner himself, if not his deputy, and they would have consulted with their ministers or people in their ministry. Mr. Faber was tailgated deliberately with the idea of them stopping him and hoping that they will be able to find something on him or about him that would have compromised him or to instigate him to actually behave in such a way as to justify Mr. Faber being kicked out of the Senate. Because Mr. Faber is about the most formidable person in the Senate that they will have to deal with in this coming term. So all these things are chicaneries that's going on behind the back of the scene that they don't feed to the public or let the public know. All the public know is that, oh, Mr. Faber had an encounter with the police and he didn't follow police instruction, and therefore, he's disobeying the police orders when the police is giving illegal orders. The police have a right to tape Mr. Faber just like how he had a right to tape them. Instead of giving the man the ticket and move on, then when they go around and run in a circle and they walk away and they go talk to their superiors and they come back and act on based on what the superior tell them and all kind of, Mr. Faber is just like, say, he's a public servant, yes, but then do that kind of shenanigans to the young man we gone waiting at the station, they ask for information, and then never even want to come back out. There are so many different ways that the police, women police told the young man he offended her. There was nothing that was not taped that showed that young man had misbehaved or was inclined to, be rowdy or you are come with a station and the police will sit on you and declare you to have committed an offense that you didn't commit. And by virtue of you being at the station, you can be arrested and put in a lockdown. They suffer the inconvenience of being in a lockdown and having a record. And then at the end of the day, nothing comes out of the case because there's no proof to any of the allegation or mischief report that they make. And the young man telephone was recording everything until the point where his telephone was boxed out of his hand. They treat the regular civilians just that kind of way, and everybody is used to accepting that as a standard practice. It's not supposed to be. I yield back, sir. I'm sorry about taking up that much of the time, but it makes me mad, when I have to. Go ahead, Mr. I'm sorry.
It's a repetitious behavior that seems that it's the norm and it's the way of life within the department. In my time as a police officer, how in the world if I arrest somebody, I already have a charge sheet made out when he got at the station. That shouldn't be.
It's about
And
scandalization.
before when you arrest somebody, the matter has to be investigated thoroughly, properly before you charge that person, right? So there's a lot to be desired of the modern day policing right now, and most of the police officers on the street. Lot to be desired. It's a the service they're doing to the Belizean people, the way they're recruiting, and the way they're taking them through the police academy, and just put these poor innocent people on the street without being properly taught properly,
But there's no
right?
need for that kind of behavior, Mr. Wade.
That's
You and I know that, and everybody, including the policeman, they know that. But they are being aided and abetted in their criminal conduct. And that's the problem.
some
If
of
they are,
them out there, they can't even write a report. They can't even take a report, right? But they're on the street, right? For what? Right? Some of them don't even know why they are on the streets. What is their duties? What is the duty of the police? That's something I was taught in the police training school. I was taught that the duties of a police officer, what you should and should not do. That's why I say what I say. Is the behavior of these officers on the street, is that what they have been taught? Well, this man Rosado, this new commissioner, he says that all these things he's gonna, address and you know.
I hope they take them all back for a refresher course. And those who are at the position of being able to be promoted, I hope they get promoted based on what is it that they learn and practice. They cannot be promoted just on the basis of how many years they're there, or who friend they are, or who's their buddies, or who's,
And
it can't
then
be like that. It shouldn't be like
and
that.
then you see the way they behave when someone tells them, well, that's not the way you do it. That's not the way you deal with people. You shouldn't be talking to me like that. You shouldn't. No, they get offensive and want to use force on you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And subject you to a whole lot of things that you are not ready for, right? Because then you will end up either committing yourself when you are in the right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're telling them that's not the way you do things, right? I told our senior superintendent that, Mr. Alvan Gentle, he's
Mm-hmm.
retired now. I told him, I said, that's not the way how you do it, or you should do it, and that's not the way you should behave. He told me, tell that to the magistrate. That's what he told me, right? Tell that to the magistrate.
You may ever get a chance to tell that to the magistrate,
I
Mr. Wade?
sure did,
Okay.
right? And the magistrate sure told him that he's pretty sure that he know what Mr. Wade will do, right? And Mr. Wade know what he will have to do, right? You understand? But
I
what I'm
wish that.
saying is that
Oh, sorry,
these
sorry.
these these guys, they put you through some unnecessary things, Mr. Chairman, right? Bamboozle you in ways that they shouldn't, right? And they lead you on to tell them things and then that's the time they implicate you,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then cause you a whole lot of unnecessary
They call it second.
situation.
They call it secondary charge. The primary reason
You
for which they
understand?
interact. The primary reason for which they will interact with you has nothing to do with what they come up with as a secondary charge. Because if they can't, like in the case of Mr. Faber, the officer wanted to go in at the man's vehicle, and anytime you have an officer who is insisting in wanting to get into your vehicle, they're up to no good, except because there are people who traffic drugs or do all that kind of stuff, or when they used to charge you for smoking weed and things like those, if they smell it in your vehicle, or if they smell liquor in your vehicle, they have a reason then to give it the next 6 degree, make you walk the plank, and figure out if you're drunk enough to have to leave your vehicle or have it towed or whatever. It goes from one thing to the next
I
to the next. Some of them
Yeah.
say that they smell weed on you, or they smell something, that's why they have to stop you. What the hell, they won't ever smell anything when they are inside their car and both vehicles are moving. But whatever is it that
It,
they say always become part of the record and the basis for them to have to interact with you. And then eventually, like you said, Mr. Wade, they come up with something. They instigate you, they excite you, they don't approach you with peacefulness or with an attempt to try and do lawful actions, you know. And it seemed to me like that's what
Why they have this kind of aggressiveness toward the public? Now I can't see the reason,
there's no
right?
need.
And they are very aggressive. Every time you, very seldom you find a nice, outspoken and well-spoken police officer. Very rare in these modern times now, right? In my time, that was the
The
manner of the
standard.
day. You got to treat the public with respect, so that you could get respect.
There's no
But
accountability.
for the record, I'm not condoning what Mr. Faber did or did not do. I'm not condoning. I don't know what he did and what he didn't do. Right? I'm not
I wasn't.
condoning that
I
personally.
wasn't there. I
Right?
wasn't there either. But from
All
what
I'm
I
saying
saw,
is that they went around it doing the, and if they are uttering that maybe he was under the influence, why the hell didn't they take a blood sample? Right?
hello,
Why
hello,
didn't they do that?
and that's part of their responsibility, by
Right?
the way.
That was
That
part
should
of
have been
their
justified.
responsibility.
That would have been a
To me, I could
justifiable.
have said he was drunk, or that's the way he appears to look,
But that's what the commissioner was trying to
right?
intimate.
Right?
The commissioner
But
was saying that if you interact with somebody and that person looks like he's acting like he's drunk,
there's
then
your
you are
duty.
justified. You're just. But that's
You,
what the
you,
commissioner was
your
saying.
duty is to get a blood sample, right, from him. Or they say they have thousands of breathalyzer. Why didn't
All,
they use one on Faber,
that,
right?
all they were attempting to do was to instigate the man into committing himself so that they can
All
have a
right.
justified reason to arrest him. Okay? That's what it was all about.
And sadly, he's
Political
a
figures.
public servant, right? He's been paid by the taxpayers, right?
Well, that's what he was telling the officer,
I'm saying,
the
but that
second officer.
that
He
doesn't
gave,
justify that he if he does something wrong, he shouldn't be arrested. That doesn't justify that. I don't care
well,
who you
they should
are.
have, if he had done something wrong,
That's
if
what
he
I'm
had
saying, right?
assaulted an officer, had he touched the officer, okay, they would have been
If
justified in claiming further than what they
exactly,
went.
exactly.
But
That's all I'm saying, right?
they came up with a bogus thing
Uh,
for public consumption.
well, I hope that they could prove that in court, Leonard. That's all. I hope, right? And
Well, they put out their tape, and on their tape, on their tape, I could hear Mr. Faber telling him he has touched him, he has basically assaulted him by virtue of making physical contact with him, unjustifiably so.
well, that's an
Okay,
assault, right?
but they turn around and file a charge of assault
Turn it the
against the
other
man that
way.
they
Yeah,
assaulted.
it's empty, right? So, but anyway, so sad to see, the taxpayers what they're paying for. You know
Uh,
that's what the taxpayers
Mr.
are
Wade,
paying for.
we have
So,
another 3 or 4 minutes. Do you have a concern that maybe you want to fill up the last few minutes for us with, rather
uh,
than I going ahead with more of this because
no, I am, I'm
no,
okay. You could go ahead and finish up what you
any
wanted to finish.
any point on the medical issues and so on that you want to talk about or the
Oh yeah,
the hospital?
there's a lot that we need to do another show on the healthcare situation in this country, right? Which
Okay.
when they keep saying that we have you know we have good medical facilities, we have the best care, we have medication, we have everything is okay, and we have equipment, and we have everything is okay, which in
Yes,
fact
that
and
is.
and
Mhm.
I say this again through our medium here, Leonard. I call for accountability on that $91 million state of the art hospital that was supposed to they should have started already. And this was
Mhm.
before the election,
Mhm.
right? Or maybe they're looking for another 91 million. I don't know, right? Same thing with the solar system and to upgrade the grill 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Where are we at? All
Mr.
that
Wade,
money. Who
Mr.
hold
Wade,
these who hold these countries accountable? Right?
am I probably getting forgetful or something? I'm thinking that somewhere in the back of my head I can recall the Saudis or the Kuwaitis or
60
somebody had
million,
given
I
us
think, 60
some money
million. I think it
for
was
a
60
medical
million dollars. US
facility.
dollars. I think it was 60 million. I could not, quote me, but it was around that figure from the
Uh,
Saudis
is
to
that
upgrade. Yes, yes, you're
is
so
that the
right, Mr.
hospital that
Chairman.
was built out in the Key, or is that something different?
I'm saying, we just utter this because it's truth, reality. And if that money he had gotten and he have done the right thing that it was intended for, maybe we wouldn't be having the blackouts that we are having, right? Maybe, just maybe, because that was to fill the gap that last 3 years ago. That was to fill the gap of the electrical blackouts, the problems we were having,
Didn't they build a
right?
plant on San Pedro too? And didn't they upgraded the 8 Mile plant?
I, as to my occurred, that's what I heard, right? But did it make it any better? Did you see any changes? Well, one thing for sure, I could say this, Leonard, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
We will be getting increase. The public will be have to pay an increase. They already spotted 3 cents, I think, more. So it's 43. Maybe it'll be 46 cents
The
on
electrical.
yeah, for the kilowatt, right?
Mm-hmm.
A kilowatt, and that will come soon, Leonard. That will come soon, right? So maybe they're waiting for that revenue, Leonard, to fix the problem, right?
Okay,
Maybe they are waiting for that revenue,
I have
right?
a one last general comment to make, and that is that, well, it's more of a question than a comment. I would like to ask our Belizean people, how better off are they from Christmas and New Year's until now? Or may I even make it a little bit more precise. How much better off are they after having given the government a second term?
That's a
Are we
good
seeing any
question.
improvements in this second term so far?
That's a very good question.
No budget has been read. Money is still being spent, not in the right places, but at least the right people them or the correct people them are being
Well,
given extra pay, while the teachers they're still running around trying to figure out if they don't get what was due to them or what was taken from them before, if they will get it back or how it's going to work out. And since we are in a new year, what about their annual subvention? There's a lot going on in the country, Mr. Wade.
so
And
true
most
on that.
people, if it's not affecting them, they're cavalier. They could care less.
And to top it off here real quick, Leonard, 98% of our people use electricity. So if
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't concern you, and the whole country, have to use our hospitals at some point. A lot of us are poor and less fortunate that cannot go to the country to get medical help. Not like the politicians, right? That the taxpayers send them out, but this should be of vital concern for the people, right? Should be of vital concern, but yet no, seems that nobody just keep taking their bukut, So on that note, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and
Well,
I pass the show back over to you.
thank you very much, Mr. Wade. And I think I'll follow up that book comment with a train track comment, and that is that this is not the staying on the track that they're talking about, but this is a different track, and we must stay up on this track because we are getting hell morning, noon, and night. If they don't want to take the lashing, they don't have to misbehave. As simple as that. End of the story for tonight. Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Nice show,
So true on that.
Thank God for the privilege. And Belizeans at home and abroad, we are very grateful for your time spared to listen to what we had to offer. I hope that somehow or another you might have been uh, tickled by something that we had to say and derive some benefit from it.
Man,
Looking forward to seeing you on Monday when we should have
the
our next
Gregory bracket.
panelist. And like Mose would say, we're gone.
Good night.
Good night.